us this morning. Okay. Mr. Ambassador, I believe I can leave the floor to you now to continue the meeting.
Thank you very much, Koen, and good morning, everybody. It's a real great pleasure to be in this seminar, in this webinar, and thank you, Claudine, as well for the whole organization. It's very important for us, of course, to exchange with the companies themselves. So, of course, we have our, let's say, more institutional meetings now every 2 weeks with the chambers and with the representatives of the Walloon Trade Office and the Flemish Trade Office, but an exchange with the companies themselves is for us very important. Not only to have an idea what's going on, let's say, in the field, in the economic field, but also to catch problems and to be able to convey them to the authorities here. And so I'm also glad that we have some representatives of the authorities in this meeting today. I think we have Mr. Van Hille and Mr. Souklal from the Department of Trade and Industry, the representatives of DTI in Brussels. So thank you very much for joining the webinar. I would also like to say to all participants that we have our consul in Cape Town in the meeting, as well as our representative Jean-Pierre Muller from the Walloon Trade Office, and our honorary consul in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, it has been quite a ride the last few weeks, not only for you, but also for us. And of course, our main focus from the beginning of this crisis has been the assistance to our Belgian citizens. Oh, I forgot also to introduce two people here at 1.5 meters, more or less. Next to me, my deputy Philippe Grossus, who's in charge of political affairs, and Françoise Puissant-Bynes, who's in charge of economic affairs. So our main focus from the beginning of this crisis has been the assistance to Belgians, and most of you know, I think, that we have organized this repatriation flight where about 280 Belgians were on board, and some other European countries. This was not a one-shot. We are still dealing with repatriation. We have, like, let's say, constantly 150 to 200 people in our database who want to fly back to Belgium, and we are now, let's say, on a permanent basis, trying to put them on flights that are organized by other European countries. We have been doing this, like, from the embassy from the beginning, but now the organization has switched again to Johannesburg. But if ever you are interested in info about this, the email address remains the same: pretoria@diplobel.vet.be. So because of the switch to Johannesburg, we have been able now to refocus our work a little bit on political and economic situation. And so we started our meetings every 2 weeks with both trade offices, also with the general representation of Flanders. I think the representation of Flanders, I forgot, sorry, Svi, is also represented in this meeting, Svi Raman, who is one of the collaborators of the Flemish representation here. So we have meetings with all institutional actors here to follow what's going on. And of course, the picture is not really very bright. We know that already before Corona, South Africa was in a recession, and all the indicators and all the economic indicators have only worsened and will only worsen. So it's not clear yet what will be the impact exactly. I mean, figures are not really available, for example, on import and export during the lockdown period. But it is clear that the impact will be quite heavy. And on the basis of contacts, individual contacts I have with companies, and on the basis also of the result of the small survey the chamber did, we are aware of the fact that, yeah, every company has been impacted by this crisis. So the aim for me and for us now is to hear a little bit from your side, how it impacted the business, what your perspectives are, and what we can do to help. I mean, not only us as an embassy, who are represented in the different working groups of the European Union, and the European Union then, for example, for trade matters is dealing directly with the DTI, but our trade offices, I mean, contacts with Brussels as well, so we are there to assist wherever we can. Since I was asked also to talk a little bit on the perspectives, I think we're here in for a longer ride than European countries. I mean, in Belgium now, restaurants have been opened. We can only dream about it here, about opening of restaurants. The restaurants in Belgium have been opened yesterday. But if we hear what the authorities are saying on, let's say, getting really back to normal, I mean, it will be like in a few months, I think. Since consistently the government has been saying that the peak will be there like in August, September. Now you hear it might be even later. So getting back to normal will only be possible, I think, after the peak has been passed. So yeah, bleak outlook, I would say. So I will stop here and listen to you, and yeah, we can come in wherever you need to come in. So thank you very much.
Okay, so maybe from here I can maybe give a little bit of my where I'm sitting to start with, and then from here we can other people can share their experiences. So first of all, I think it's what the ambassador says. You're very right. I believe we are in this for a long run here, and the impact is going to be quite severe. What we have seen in the port statistics, which is the Durban port, Cape Town port, the volumes, and I will talk now just about the container volumes, have dropped between March and April with more than 30%. And that trend continued for May. No, I got it wrong. February, between February and March already, the volumes dropped with 30%, and that continued in April. I'm waiting for the statistics for the month of May, but that shows that this is a dramatic impact both on the import side and the export side in terms of the volumes coming through for the economy here in South Africa. So we hope it will pick up soon. The link can be either maybe there was some delay in shipments already in March coming from China when the corona hit there in January. There could have been a delay of production coming from China. That's maybe why we could already see in March a big drop in the volumes in the ports. April clearly is linked to the lockdown regulations that were there. Lots of vessels skipped the airport, the ports. So that means that the volumes were never brought in. May probably is a little bit better, but I'm sure it's going to be lower as well. From an airport point of view, that has been very bad, whereby all the passenger flights were cancelled, as you all know, and the freighters, only freight planes were coming in. So that reduced a lot the capacity, certainly the beginning of the lockdown. Afterwards, more freighters came in. Obviously, the impact was that all the rates that were in place with any customers or with any airlines were dropped, and they had to review all the rates onwards. The current situation as it is now, from a logistics point of view, we are back to that we can do all the business. That means imports, exports, transporting within South Africa, exporting here into the neighboring countries, except for tobacco products within South Africa. Exports of tobacco products are allowed. I think we are about 80%, 85% of our business today, compared to where we were in February and March, the bigger part of March. So it's April was at 35%. May was at 70%. So yeah, I don't know when we will be back to where we were before the Corona crisis. But we follow all the regulations. Our warehouses are all operating. The regulations, which one for me and I probably for many of you as well, the biggest challenge has been to interpret the regulations. What are we allowed to do? What can we do? What can we not do? With the ever-changing regulations that came through, we have had a lot of support from our legal people in my teams that were challenging, checking out what we can do. So it's been very challenging, but that doesn't mean that we give up. We have never stopped our operations, and we hope things will pick up now from the manufacturing as well in this country. Anybody wants to say something or add something regarding his or her experiences for the last few months?
I can come in if that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Donald.
Yeah, so just to introduce myself, I'm Donald Matheson. I'm the Managing Director of Lotus Bakeries South Africa. And this is my first foray into the BCCA. So I've just been here since October of last year. And Lotus just invested in South Africa from May of last year. So just a quick one on our experience. We have a big manufacturing plant out by Woolsey, and we employ about 350 people there. And what we saw initially, because of the panic buying, so we export probably about 99% of our product to about 26 or 27 countries around the world. And because of panic buying initially in all of those countries ahead of the lockdowns, our volumes were very, very high. And because South Africa was a little bit behind the curve from a coronavirus perspective, we didn't have any challenges really internally, and it allowed us to get prepared for that, get all the preventive measures in place, do a lot of staff training, staff education, staff engagement, and we felt in a reasonable place. What has happened subsequently in the last couple of months is volumes have dropped in the markets in which we sell, which has probably been a blessing in disguise, because as we've gone through this and coronavirus has got more severe in South Africa, we have started to face into absence challenges at work. So where we do proactive screening of colleagues, and if they display any symptoms at all, we will be sending them home. The government testing policy is such that it is very difficult to get a test in Western Cape. I think they've now introduced a new policy where unless you are over 55 or have comorbidities, then you will not get tested. So we have to make judgment calls based on symptoms. So the absence rate is proving a challenge, but thankfully with volumes reducing, it is manageable. I think now Europe has started to open back up again we expect volumes to come back strongly. And I think what we are concerned about in the coming months is that we get the combination of high volumes coming through, but also high absence coming through from our site. And therefore, we will be reduced in our capability to be able to fulfill those volumes. I think that the final thing that I'd say on it is that it has been challenging to engage and educate all of our colleagues. So we have certain colleagues that, irrespective of what you say to them in terms of the risk of the coronavirus, they do not take it seriously. And whilst we have very strong controls and measures in place in the work environment, I think outside of the work environment, in the communities in which they live and operate, it is very, very challenging. So we take the view, actually, the safest place that they can be a lot of the time is at work. But we're constantly trying to reiterate those messages. So like the previous speaker, it's probably been one of the most challenging times that I've had in my career. And certainly we feel like we're in the eye of the storm at the minute. And I think as this progresses, I think that it will take us a number of months to get clear of it.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you. So I tend to agree with you. There is indeed the awareness training is something that we have to do continuously. We have to keep our people reminding that it's in their own interest and for their own safety that all these measures are being put in place, and that they should try to apply them at home as well, in the interest of their continuity for the business and for their health and their families.
If you don't mind, I would like to give my perspective.
Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Yes, so let me introduce myself. So my name is Tom Vervoort. I'm managing South African operations for a company called Reactor. So we are in the field of data analytics. So we don't have ships, we don't have factories, but we rely merely on IT services. And one of our biggest clients in South Africa is DStv, which I hope you're all familiar with. And for us, of course, this has been an opportunity at first because, well, people are at home, people are watching TV, and we could see the numbers growing. And if business is good for DStv, it is good for us. But this is a quite vicious first wave, of course. It comes with a lot of uncertainty. Although the situation is good right now, people are bracing for uncertain times, and a DStv premium package, for instance, is certainly not your most vital item on the list right now, especially if you fallen victim to retrenchment. We do rely on service contracts that last from 3 to 6 months to 1 year. And although business is good right now, we will hit this point of renewals at some point, and we see that, and this is strategy, is with all our customers right now. What's killing the procurement processes are these uncertainties. Nobody is willing to commit to do any major investments in IT, in services, and in consultancy. And so we know that we haven't hit the wall yet, but we see it coming. And it's the uncertainty and the lack of available information that is making our life quite difficult at the moment.
Yeah. I believe you're not the only one, Tom, in that regard. With the uncertainties, coming back with investments.
May I just come in, please?
Yes.
Also, in reaction to what Donald said, first of all, I would also like to say that we also had to, of course, completely reorganize our operations, if I may call it, our diplomatic operations. In the middle of this crisis. So we have been organizing this repatriation flight with the skeleton staff. We have introduced teleworking, and I have to say that our foreign ministry has been able to take some giant leaps forward in terms of telework and IT support for all collaborators. But I have a question also to everybody here, because one of the issues when I visit companies, I like to visit companies, so that's also a message to everybody here, because I learn a lot when I visit companies all over the country. So when I visit companies, very often they complain about the bottlenecks, especially in the ports. So there are some reduced volumes now. Is it better now? And how did it go in the, for example, when you had, Donald, your raise in demand just before we went in lockdown here? You have issues there? I know Durban is a particular problem, and it takes a long time to get containers out of customs. Is it better now since the volumes have dropped?
Somebody before I take the floor. I mean, you must, Olivier. You must have experiences yourself, Olivier de Blauw, maybe.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I will also introduce myself. So I'm Olivier de Blauw, General Manager for Soudal. Soudal is a Belgian manufacturer of sealants and adhesives for the construction sector, and we sell to all the hardware stores in Africa. Let's say to Builders Warehouse, Mica, Cash Build, Jack's Paints, and many more, and then also construction companies. So we depend on the construction sector, but when the Corona crisis started, we became immediately an essential supplier, and we managed quite well the crisis. Although we didn't invoice the month of April, but in May we were already at 70% of budget, and I expect for June we're going to be at 80% of the budgets. So the only concern that we have, the volumes are dropping. Customers are still ordering. There are not the volumes as before anymore. But okay, we still have let's say a limited market share in Africa, so we can still grow. So on the long term, we will survive the crisis, and we're going to have more market share. And my competitors, they are suffering, and maybe some competitors will, in the long term, they will not be active anymore. So we will take market share. That's the main strategy. Then concerning, to reply at your question for the containers, we had during the Corona crisis roughly 10 to 15 containers. So the beginning of May, we received all our containers. So at the moment, we have a huge stock of sealants and adhesives, which is positive, of course. But now I can confirm the containers that we received now, the month of end of May and June, we receive them more or less on time, not as before anymore. So Koen, I can confirm there is maybe less capacity, minus 30%. We receive our containers more or less on time. So for us, that's positive. Before the crisis, there were delays between 2 and 3 weeks. So that's the positive thing for us. But we also gonna have, let's say, the month of June, less containers, and also July, less containers. And I expect again from August on, because then high season starts for construction, then we're going to have again more containers. And that's a crucial period for us. Let's say the month of August until December. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can echo that, Olivier, that indeed that the port now is less congested, and that it's been very challenging for the month of April because there was a lot of backlog that was built because of the strict regulations of no movement of cargo except essential goods, and all the other cargo was stuck in the port. Hence why from the month of May the government allowed the movement of non-essential cargo out of the ports as well to decongest the ports, and that has been a big job that we have done throughout the month of May. And now the situation is good, except for Cape Town, which is actually struggling now. Why? Because they had some positive cases, COVID cases in the port. So they have closed the port down for a few days already. So every day the port is closed. You have to open it again afterwards. And that means you have delays, and that means you have congestion. So there is congestion currently in the port of Cape Town, with vessels waiting outside. I don't know, Donald, from where you are sitting in Cape Town, you probably can see that quite nicely. No, it's not nice, but there's vessels lined up in the port of Cape Town right now, which is not the usual sight in Cape Town.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, things have freed up a bit. We were seeing delays of 2 or 3 weeks, probably from the latter part of March through April and the early part of May. So similar to the other speaker, I do think things have freed up a bit, but that's more likely to be down to our volumes, which have probably halved. So we're not fighting for the stacks quite as hard as we were previously. And the worry, of course, is if it does continue and the volumes return, then both of them compound each other.
Anybody else wants to add? Share experiences, questions?
I see some people from the hospitality business. I suppose they are very severely hit as well.
Yes.
Yes.
I can add.
Go ahead, Didier.
Hi. Thank you. Hi, my name is Lydia van Aarde. I'm from the Talent Seekers. We are an integrated HR talent management company. So we don't operate obviously in the sphere of ports and physical goods, but more with intellectual goods. And we have not been affected because the work that we do is we use psychometric assessments as the basis for our HR interventions. So this is more a time of opportunity for us to help companies with recruitment, with team deployment. Can you hear me? Is there a problem?
No, we hear you. We can hear
Okay, we hear you. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so we help companies with team deployment, recruitment, team conflict, and now with virtual teams, with strategic sessions, strategic realignment, and so forth. So from our sector, from the HR sector, we have not been negatively affected.
That's good news.
Yes, thank you.
Do you see? Do you believe that there's going to be, from an HR point of view, there's going to be lots of people retrenched now rather than it has been before during the actual lockdown, and that people are actually going to go to retrenchments now in their factories and in the business?
Yes, and we are already seeing that. And the question, so there is a lot of work there. When people are retrenched, we have a program called Soft Landing, where we can help people through the retrenchment process, both psychologically, career-wise, to reskill, to redeploy, all of that. Also within companies, to help companies make really weighed decisions as to who they should keep and who they should let go. And this is where the assessments come in again, to ensure that your team structure is correct, to ensure that your team strengths are correct. And also to look how business is going to change. What will the future needs be? How will your market and your business change because of the virtual world that is going to feature stronger? And then how you should look at your people as a strategic resource so that your company can continue to grow and to improve in a new environment.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of demand in the
Yes,
coming
we
days.
hope so. Yes, thank you.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
but for you.
Yes. Yes. But the positive is that you can assist and you can help to minimize the impact through the service that you do.
Okay. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I can come in again to fill up some space, but I saw Jean-Pierre.
Yes, I wanted to raise a point for an issue for us. So we are, as the AOX office, the Wallonia Export Agency in South Africa, we support, of course, exporters to expand their activity or to develop new activities in the region. And we've been very, very active recently. The fact that the coronavirus has hit the world doesn't make the companies on the standstill. They are, some of them are using this time to get information, to collect information about new potential markets. And of course, the question for new exporters in particular, the key issue is to travel, to find new markets, to meet new people. We can do this. You can meet people you know by video conference, but if you want to make new customers, it's better to meet them in person and travel. So what we do, we organize events, of course, like the trade show where we will participate in November in Cape Town in the energy sector and in the telecom sector, if they happen, if they are not cancelled. So that's a question mark, of course. But the key issue is about travel restriction. So everybody's asking the same question: when will South Africa open again for international travelers? So our response is we don't know. We see very different information published or communicated in the media. Even I saw a communication from the Minister of Tourism mentioning November as the opening date, which is pretty scary. What do you guys, what do you, Didier, think about it? What is your take about this travel restriction for international travelers?
Okay, hello everyone. Let me introduce myself as well. My name is Didier Eman. I'm still in Belgium. My son is in South Africa with his partner. And nowadays I'm still a banker in Belgium, but I will start to switch my career in a safari lodge in the Welgevonden Reserve, northwest of Pretoria. Now, the lodge is in a rebuilding phase. So the rebuilding stopped with the start of the lockdown. And we have a delay of 3 months. And normally we will be able to open in September. But we had to change our business plan because we have an unclear view about intercontinental flights. And also when I speak to people in Belgium, French relations, and I ask them, are you willing to fly to have a holiday on another continent? A lot of people are scared and prefer to wait a year before going to another continent. So we had to change our business plan and we focus on the local markets. And we hope we will have bookings, but it's a big question mark. It's a big question mark. Mm. Yeah.
I believe so. I think there was a poll done in Belgium not long ago. How many people are willing to in terms of holidays? How many people are willing to go to abroad? I think it's less than 3% are ready to travel outside Europe at the moment. There's about 30% that's willing to go on holidays within Europe. Majority will stay indeed in Belgium. So I presume the same will apply for South Africa, whereby majority of people will stay obviously in South Africa, and that we will not have a lot of people coming down to South Africa for their holidays. Even if the borders open up, even if they open up from August, I don't think there will be a lot of visitors coming from Europe now. Maybe Ambassador can also give you a view.
Well, of course, the whole question about the resumption of commercial flights is something we follow also very, very closely, because I mean, whenever there are commercial flights again, we don't have to repatriate people anymore. And so, but the signals and the information we got for the moment is that for international flights, it's not for tomorrow, and it's quite worrying indeed. We had a few weeks ago these schedules that circulated with the resumption of international flights somewhere in December. Some say now in March only next year. That would be very, very worrisome and also very bad for the economy and the touristic sector especially. So it's like semi-official, but what is for sure is that it's not for tomorrow. It's not for July or August. I think it's later, or even some people say or some sources say beginning of next year. So that will also mean that we as an embassy, we will continue to assist all Belgians and people with residence in Belgium to be repatriated on whatever flight possible. It also limits our own mobility, of course. That's of course, that's we're in the same boat as you.
Okay.
I don't know if the colleagues of the DTI in Brussels have something more on that. Mr. Van Hille?
Yes, good morning. So as from the DTI in Brussels, there's many Belgians who are contacting us to see what's happening. We had even a few Belgians looking at investing in the future, but investment from Belgians in South Africa has pretty much come to a standstill. And the South Africans are very motivated to export their products to Belgium. So on that level, the South Africans are proactive, looking for new markets in Europe. So we're going to have to see.
Do you have anything more concrete on the resumption of commercial flights?
No, no, I don't know when the flights resume.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I mean, I thought it was a good occasion. Ask you the question.
That would be more on my ambassador level, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What they.
Okay. Yeah.
So in any case, to all the Belgians who are in South Africa, the office in Brussels is always there to help them, especially with their visa issues, etc. So we can always facilitate that they get helped faster.
Okay.
Since we're talking also, Koen, if I may, we were talking about assistance to Belgians and Belgian companies. It's also important for you to follow us on social media because we are still planning to move the consulate to Pretoria. I suppose most of you are aware of it. It's a plan that exists already for many, many years. But we have been renovating the embassy here like already since January 2019. And so last week we restarted the construction site here with our contractor. And so in a few weeks, the whole new office space here will be ready, and we will be able then to move the consulate to Pretoria. We will communicate about it, but I just want to flag it that you know that from a certain point in time, it might be July, it might be later this year, still confirmation. We need confirmation from Brussels, but in the near future, if you have to go to the consulate in Gauteng, it will be Pretoria instead of Johannesburg in brand new and very nice offices. And there's, of course, for all people in the Cape provinces, a consul in Cape Town who's there, and he will stay there for the time being. Karel Stouthuizen, who's also in the meeting here.
Okay. Now, Naledi, you wanted to say something?
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I am from Doctors Without Borders Southern Africa, and as you can imagine, the COVID-19 pandemic has really hit the health sector immensely. At Doctors Without Borders, we are responding to the emergency, but it has been quite difficult, as you can imagine, because our hardest hit province is obviously the Western Cape, where we also have one of our projects running. So what we've done is we have repurposed our activities in our current projects. We have projects in about 4 provinces in order to accommodate our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been very difficult, especially in the Western Cape, because of the need for the procurement of PPE and other equipment to respond to the pandemic, as well as sort of trying to ensure that our facilities are well equipped to respond. We are looking to create or build more health facilities to respond to this pandemic in other provinces, including the KZN, where we realize that the numbers are increasing quite rapidly. We are also training health staff because, as you might know, we are on a shortage of health professionals in South Africa, and this has become quite evident during this time. So we as MSF globally and in South Africa, we have a 40 million rand target in order to reach and be able to respond to this emergency. We are very much open currently to creating and formulating partnerships with external partners. We are happy to also accept in-kind donations in order to respond, because there is a great shortage of PPE for health workers and patients alike. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's what I would like to say. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, you're on mute, huh?
No, I'm unmute. Okay. So what I would like to add was, this morning when I came to the consulate, I heard a broadcasting mission with the CEO of South African tourism. And he said that he was going to try to address government to open up to allow international tourism as from September. So I forgot his name, I didn't catch his name well, but that I just wanted to add. So to me, it's a bit optimistic that the government is going to open up borders for international tourism when we will only reach the peak in September. But it's just to show that he also added that he does not believe in local tourism, as many South Africans will have financial problems and will not have the means to spend their holidays here in South Africa, and that they mainly depend on international travelers to spend their holidays here in South Africa, and to bring money into the country. So that's what he was. That is why he is going to try address government to open up borders to allow international tourism faster than planned. That's what I just wanted to add.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can confirm that I saw reports yesterday on News 24 that indeed the tourism industry is pressuring the government a lot. But it's for sure that they will start with domestic tourism, and they already did by opening parks. So I think it's a matter of weeks or months before hotels and restaurants can open again. But definitely they will start with domestic travel because it's still forbidden in principle for non-essential travel to cross provincial borders. So they will have to change that, and then the next step is then regional travel, and then the ultimate step would be to resume commercial international flights again.
Okay. So something which is something personal for me. My visa is expiring end of July. Okay, so I know from international communities this is a big question. Do we know if there's going to be a huge backlog? Because obviously people will apply as the respective offices will open again to apply for the permits. Then will there? Do we know if there's going to be like months of delays, or is it going to be able to catch up this backlog?
I think it's very likely that you can expect huge delays whenever they resume activities. I mean, we have the same with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. I mean, we haven't been able to ask for new IDs, permits, etc. So they've been piling up, and we haven't been able to deliver something physically there, documents or forms or whatever. So there will be backlogs for sure, but the good news is that you won't be penalized. I mean, we have now like almost 500 people repatriated to Belgium, and many of them were had like an overstay on the visa, and so none of them has had any problem with that, and none of them will be penalized. I think that has been made clear from the beginning by the Department of Home Affairs, and they've stuck to it. Karel, I don't know if you want to.
Well, that's my opinion as well. So there will be a huge backlog. I, for example, am already illegal in the country, as you know, for a month now. But for sure, you can count on huge delays. And it's also my understanding that there will be no penalties at all. I haven't heard of anyone who has been punished because of an overstay. So, and that's what we still read on the website of Home Affairs as well. They announced that the VFS offices are going to open or are open already to take in applications, but it doesn't seem that communication is not clear yet, apparently. So we get in some emails from Belgians who contacted VFS already to apply for an extension of their visa. And apparently some offices are open, others are not open. But Home Affairs announced on the website that VFS is open for business again.
Okay. Anybody, any topics, anything you want to share? I can say that we have a bi-weekly meeting with the Belgian Chamber and RX and the embassy and all the FIT as well, I believe is there. So we have these meetings. If there's any topics that you want to raise, please get in touch with us. We will then raise them through that forum with the ambassador and the respective organizations.
I would like to ask everybody, because we have our honorary consul in Zimbabwe here in the meeting, but the idea was to have a separate webinar dealing with the neighboring countries. So we have a representation in Mozambique, and very able and competent honorary consuls in Harare, in Gaborone, and in Namibia. So the proposal would be then to have a separate webinar on these countries. I don't know if there's an interest from your side, from the participant side.
I think from my side, it's a good idea.
Okay, so let's do that, because I know that for certain many Belgian companies also cover the whole SADC or even more countries from Joburg or Cape Town. So it would be interesting also to have an exchange. Maybe we can also try to get some companies on board that are established in these countries, and to brief us a little bit on how they see it in the field there. So Claudine and Koen, if you agree, we go ahead with that, as we already said, maybe in 2 weeks or something.
We'll organize that.
Okay.
Mr. Ambassador,
So
yes, one more thing, maybe about the Eureka project, maybe.
Yeah, well, I think
because that
I had a look at the companies in the list. I don't think it's really relevant to raise it here.
I think Reactor could be interested, but I'll send them the link.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I just would like to say that maybe as a conclusion, that the picture I see is mixed. Of course, everybody's affected for sure, but it's like affected on the positive side, but mainly on the negative side. But I noticed that some companies are in the right sector and benefit from this new environment rather than being a crisis. But so we are there together with the trade offices to assist whenever we can. We are, as I said in my introduction, represented in the EU meetings. That's where we deal with the concrete trade matters we have with South Africa, between European Union and South Africa. So if you have really specific issues on tariff or non-tariff barriers or whatever, please convey it to the trade offices, convey it to us, so that we can raise it and to get incorporated into that dialogue with the government of South Africa. And then, of course, on the consular side, we are there to assist our consulates still in Joburg, our consulate in Cape Town, and the embassy here. Feel free to contact us whenever you have a problem or question.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Then I believe we are right within the time. So thank you all for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to host you, to see you all. And I wish you all the best in the coming weeks and months, further adjusting yourselves to the new situation that is there, and hopefully everything will be better for the better in the future.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thanks a lot.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.